day's ramblings. I suppose the worst of my ramblings are better than papist pontifications. I've been looking over, as I regularly do on an almost daily basis, at least when I'm awake and I can, the place where I get a lot of my information from, which in this case is Poll, Politically Incorrect on 4chan. I've seen more stories which corroborate the mass sterilization endocrine failure. In fact, I've got to get around to providing some promised links. I'd known about this for 5.5 years now. It'll be 6 years in about 4 months that I knew about in advance. Well in advance, I was told spiritually that this was coming in 2 specific dreams, this mass sterilization castration campaign of the earth. And there's just more and more of these articles that 63 or 66%, I saw it was between 60, 63%, now it's 66%, I think. Young men are not having conjugal activity, quote unquote, not having sex. Saw a chart today posted on Poll of the dramatic spike in disability claims. Persons are disabled. So these are the ones that are still alive. The died suddenly, that documentary was released on Rumble this winter. The world premiere of a documentary about the poison effects, the deadly effects of the poison injections, called Died Suddenly. And the continuing endocrine failure. The individuals, they're tired all the time. They don't have, particularly the males. I've noticed that the males are particularly singled out, as it was in this information that I received a little over 3 years later. Or when was it? I'll have to go look at the file dates. I had known about this, and I really didn't tell anybody anything, because I said to myself, how am I going to explain or describe that one day 99% of all the males worldwide, or at certain locations anyway, or 99.95% of all males in certain populations will all be castrated eunuchs with no testicles at all physically? And I just didn't feel like telling people this. But I kept, I told a few people. In my spiritual group, which is a very small group, really, of only about 5 to 20 people. And of course, actually it's probably up to 50 or 60 people, but the vast majority of them thought I was a stark raving lunatic. But I told them anyway. And one of my friends that's, I would say, a part of the core group, has a contact with an individual who's high ranking, at least within the knowledge of the eugenicists. And I gave, because this insider would post public information on various and sundry topics, including population reduction and sterilization. And so I proffered, that's my words exactly, what's the word? Kind of like wrote. I created for him. I gave him specific questions to ask this individual. And he did so within the best of his ability. Some of these questions were not your average, ordinary, everyday question. It's not a common topic to talk about mass. Only very, very small circles do individuals talk about the mass sterilization of populations. So I drafted, if you will, various and sundry questions for my friend to ask this contact, which ultimately my friend did. And I think it took place more than once. And finally, armed with, because I think what it was I was not sure that this high-ranking public posting individual knew about eugenics or eugenicism. I had to qualify it and identify, and sure enough, this individual did. I don't remember the question that was posed, but this individual had very specific articulable information about eugenics and eugenicism. So then I drafted a specific series of questions for my friend to ask, which he did. And this individual gave very specific articulable responses. And this, ironically enough, was not in a public forum, but ironically enough was via a two-way social media contact on a cell phone. My friend then took snapshots of him asking the questions and the responses to those questions. And then my friend passed phone screenshots of those conversations on to me. Now, for reasons of, I kept that information because I do protect my sources. So for a while, I talked about it, but I would not, and I still am not, obviously, revealing the exact source. However, in December, January, maybe it was as late as February or March, but it was in the winter of 2019-2020 when the scamdemic socialism, pandemic socialism, which is what these individuals are rolling out upon the world, as it was beginning its public phases. And as I had said, I stumbled across the publishing of a non-peer-reviewed, which told me that it was essentially propaganda, but in a way not propaganda, because even through propaganda, they mix truths in with the lies. So it's like, yeah, here we got this big beautiful pot of chili for you, it's delicious. Yeah, we threw in 10 dog turds, eat it up, it's delicious. So you have to sort through the truth and pick out the lies, or the other way around. Anyway, sort through the lies and pick out the truth. So as I read through, or even just, I think it was looked at the syllabus. I think it was just the syllabus, but I think I actually picked through it a couple pages, or it was very short. It was only 3 or 4 or 5 pages, so I skimmed through it fairly quickly. But what this article alleged was that the so-called alleged virus would damage kidneys and testicles. And I knew right away, at least in my spirit, I said, aha, this is the beginning of the mass sterilization campaign. And that's why, now in hindsight, I see that their claims and statements about the issues with the kidneys, they're going to say one thing. They're telling you about an end result, but the ways and the means of arriving at that result are different than what they're saying. They're telling you about an end result, but they're being deceptive about how they arrive at that result. So in this case, neither one of that statement that the so-called alleged virus would do this to kidneys and that to gonads, to testicles, neither one of those claims is true. The iatrogenic disease with a specific drug that's given to these individuals that were placed on respirators, and the respirators, that's actually what kills you, is the respirator. And then this particular drug that begins, I think it's remdesivir. You can sound that out, and there are other doctors that have spoken out against it. But this was a drug that was given to these individuals that were on the respirators, which caused them to suffer kidney failure. And of course, then the renal failure would kill them as well. But this was a part of iatrogenic disease. the plan to. This was the soft kill. So even though they were saying, yeah, the so-called virus does thus and such, no, it was the administration of poison, various types of poison, orally and intravenously, subcutaneously, because that's how a lot of it is. It's subcutaneous poison that spreads throughout the body and becomes transmissible, so-called shedding. Anyway, so the subcutaneous injections, poison injections, that's what kills the gonads and causes the clots and the strokes and the heart attacks. And they're starting to come, they can't hide it forever. So it's either the so-called eugenicists or others that are opposed to them. But one way or another, they're having to come out with something. So now, fully 2 years later, after the rollout of the poison injections, 3 years, 2 years at least, the statements that, well, they're seeing, and then the effects of the poison injections they're calling long so-called COVID, when in fact it's the effect of the poison injection. So they're not really honest, but if you're spiritual and or intelligent enough, you'll be able to read through their lies. Now, the poison injections are what do in the gonads. And I had heard from an individual that I respect as an insider, was talking about, well, we're just going to send everybody home. And this individual was talking, this was years ago, I'd hear this individual say, yeah, we're just going to send everybody home and nobody's going to be working. And that's a part of the pandemic socialism thing. Well, part of that is because as the effects of the poison injections are felt more and more, particularly among the males, they no longer have stamina to work any longer. And I was doing, again, I have information from all sorts of different sources because, an endocrine system of a mammal is an endocrine system of a mammal. So one of the things that I found out years ago, this was about 10 years ago, I was doing some research on horses, and I came across this interesting statement written in a book like 140 years ago, that 2 stallions can do the work of 3 geldings. So effectively, a gelding, i.e. a male horse that's had its testicles surgically removed, is reduced to only 2/3 of its physical energy level that an intact male with its testicles physically intact retains. So this is an interesting little percentage, if you will, that I came across long ago, and then the individuals who brought forth this knowledge, and they passed away long ago, but it was a simple metric, if you will, if that's the correct use of that word, that an intact male is half again as strong as a male a eunuch, because it's not really a male, a type of male. But so what we're seeing now as the endocrine failures increase, and also another thing I saw, I'm seeing it from multiple sources now. There was a first time ever article, which I saved, of course, a thread posted on Poll, I'm politically incorrect on 4chan, was this big thing like, why aren't you taking TRT? Why aren't you taking testosterone replacement therapy? And, they were saying, yeah, the food, the water, your testosterone levels are dropping, blah, blah, blah. Well, again, they're pointing out a fact, but they're not being honest as to the real reason as to why. Now, is it entirely untrue? If persons are drinking a lot of bottled water, which has xenoestrogen in it from the plastics, is that damaging their endocrine systems? Yes. And the food that's in these same plastics, and who knows what other gender bending and the toxins. I still haven't memorized all this, but there's like 3 different ways that reproductive and or endocrine systems are damaged and compromised or rendered non-functional either through phthalates and toxic chemicals. I'm trying to think. It was radiation, toxic chemicals, and then I guess, was it the xenoestrogens? Because I don't know if those fell under the topic of chemicals. And then there were the phthalates. It was like 4 things in one category, but there were ultimately 3 categories. The various types of radiation I have one of my scrying mirrors popped up with another scrying mirror. I'm carrying around multiple scrying mirrors, which I keep well away from my body. And I don't, unless under the most stringent circumstances, I always use headphones when I'm interacting with my phone. I don't press my phone up to my ear. So either radiation from various and sundry sources, chemicals, and I don't know, endocrine disruptors, anyway. But anyway, so there, these things do exist and they are a cause. But now they've introduced yet another source, which is this poison subcutaneous injection, so-called VACCINE, poison injection needle. And this is what is ultimately causing a very rapid, precipitous decline in testosterone levels in males. And so now they're already rolling out like, hey, come get your little needle, come get your TRT, come get your testosterone replacement therapy. Well, why? Because, all the males out here, their gonads, their testicles are dying. And then I stumbled across a recording on a completely different site, which is a TikTok aggregator. And I'm not going to give a whole lot of details because there's a lot of controversy over TikTok, and I don't want to get embroiled in all that. But suffice it to say that there are aggregators, and there are some very wise, intelligent individuals there. And there was the posting of a short snippet of a Joe Rogan podcast video, vlog, whatever, of his show. And they were showing this one guy saying to Joe, hey, here, I'll take my shot in my butt, and I'm like, what? Now, these individuals, this is based upon information and belief. I don't have firsthand knowledge of this, but because of the rituals they have to participate in, the debauched homosexual sex rituals that these individuals partake of, they damage their endocrine systems because of their debaucheries. And so they also have to, and they also want to continue to have this big manly look, which it's fake. And before I forget, my friend that I had not spoken to in 21 years, I'm grateful to him. I'd been using the phrase clown world and clown show, and even the dream that I saw, it was a vision, whichever it was, I saw of as Yahuah's Arca reality, the Shaddai, Ehim, Elyon reality passes over the earth. Over the papists in their murky darkness, and what emerges is a circus of fools. My friend, and I've been using, clown world and clown show, and I've known about the Truman Show, and most individuals that are knowledgeable will know about the Matrix and things like the Truman Show, and they know that it's fake. But my friend used a conjunction that I have not really heard before, and I really like. And even I had a recent dream, which I've already told you about, which was this dream where I was in this triangle-shaped bedroom in this house. And I'm like, why is this room triangle-shaped? And my friend's words that I'm going to give him credit for. Fake world. Fake world. And as I'd said before, you live in the houses that we created and gave you. That houses are not allowed to be more than 37.5 feet high. Is it 37.5 feet? They're not allowed to be more than 2.5 stories high. This is uniform. Anybody that's ever stepped in a law library, which the overwhelming vast majority, 99.9995%, They don't even know where the law library is, let alone go walk into it. And of course, that's the fake world law library. And before I forget, is that for those that are spiritual, pray to be delivered from fake world. That as Yahuah Al Elyon comes to you and warns you, as he's warning me, as he's been talking to me for decades, 46 years that I know of, minimum. Well, actually, Yahuah Al Elyon is a she. But anyway, that little aside, that everything is fake. The houses you live in, you live in the houses that we created and gave you. Fake world, fake little lives. Well, that's the creation of this energy harvesting aspect. Is the masses are just a bunch of bricks to be energy harvested. And I remember this one guy. It was quite a few years ago now, but his phrase: disposable containers. The masses are looked upon as disposable containers, just to be energy harvested. And then there's every now and then I think about various and sundry the 1995 Steve Jackson card game, the Illuminati card game, and the various statements and very instructional information given there. There's one card called Sucked Dry and Cast Aside, and it's a picture of an individual. It's two-dimensional. It's a guy. He's laying out on the street, buildings of a city, small buildings, and there's this guy. He looks two-dimensional. He's so flat, laying out on the street. And this is, that card was called Sucked Dry and Cast Aside, and that's referring to this energy harvesting aspect of these individuals who I've spoken of before, but not lately, and that is that they are the husbandmen. They are not the owners. They would like to say, it's this parable in the scriptures where the householder, the owner of the house, he had a house and he built a vineyard and a tower and a wine press, and he lent it out to husbandmen, and he took a journey into a far country. This is Yusha, the Yahuah Al Ehim reality, so-called Jesus, talking about his father, Yahuah Al Shaddai, who left in the shuttlecraft 13,000 years ago. Shaddai was here for 66 million years. It's only been just recently that Shaddai has left the earth, and he's coming back. And those that are in death, that are froward, away from the Father, they know that. They know destruction and death are coming. But the Father of lights is returning to the earth and to those who are in life. And this is the parable of the Messianic scriptures. And in the same way that that the evil individuals, Messiah would tell these parables, and that the Satanists of that day, Synagogue of Satan, etc., and just plain Satanists, Matthew 8:44, you do the will of your father, the devil. They are in that Olam reality rather than the Shaddai Ehim Elyon reality. It says they perceived, because, even though they're in death, they can perceive they are spiritual. And so occasionally they got one or two neurons clicking on occasion. Used to, probably don't anymore because they've been cut off. But anyway, it says they perceived he spoke the parable against them. Well, why is it that and they were filled with great wrath, because, they're being exposed as the frauds, liars, charlatans, fakes, and plural present tense antichrists that they are. So this parable of the Messiah saying, the householder, the father, the Shaddai reality, let's make that clear, sent, he took his journey into a far country. That's the Father departing in the shuttlecraft. He's left in the shuttlecraft. And he's coming back. And it says he sent his servants. When it came time to receive the increase of the vineyard, he sent his servants. And the husbandmen, who are these individuals? the ostensible powers that be, the rulers of this world. They're temporary, and they're not the real rulers. They're the ostensible temporary rulers. They treated his servants despitefully and cast them out. So the father, the husband, not the husbandman, the householder sent more servants, and the husbandman cast them out and treated them despitefully and slew some. Now, this is my friend, Michael Milligan. There's a maxim of law. What is the original intent of the lawgiver? What is the original intent of the lawgiver? The father said, I will send my son that they might reverence my son. Now, this is the Shaddai reality sending the Ehim reality. This parable is being told to the devil worshippers by the Ehim reality, Yahuah HaMashiach of Nazareth, as his projection when he walked here upon this earth to bring the way of reconciliation to the Father. Now that you're reconciled to the Father, now what? Not just, just trust in the blood of the Lamb. Just trust in the blood of the Lamb. What, you don't have to do anything? Wrong. Anyway, I'm getting off topic. So, with the original intent of the lawgiver, that they might reverence my son. Does the world, do the masses, do the billions reverence Yahuah Al Ehim? Yahuah HaMashiach of Nazareth, so-called Jesus, do they truly reverence him? Poseidon? No, they do not. The billions do not. They are froward. They are in death. They are away from the life reality. And they said, these husbandmen said, see this. He says, the Father said, I will send my son, that they might reverence my son. And then the devil worshippers said, look, this is the heir. Let us slay him and seize upon the inheritance. Now they believe, because they think, what, you think you can kill an eternal, ever-living God? That's what it says in the scriptures. Had they known, they would not have slain the Son of Glory. Dum-dums. They literally fell into the trap to both condemn them as well as provide for the way of salvation and the way to be restored to the Father in the same event. And then the Messiah asked of these people, what will the householder do to these husbandmen? And I don't know. I don't remember who said it, if it was the Messiah, if it was Yahuah, or it was the people he was talking to. I think it was the response of the people. He said that he will miserably destroy them. Well, they know. Why the rockets? Why going to Ukraine? Because they know that level 4.6 civilization is coming to miserably destroy them. We're just going to get off this rock. Not going to happen. In the words of Deke Jackson in Conspiracy Clown. Not going to happen. You're going to stay on this rock. This rock is your grave. All you who exist in death. So that's that parable. That's the mystery. And why don't I've never heard anybody teach on that parable. Why? Because they speak of, the modern clergy speak of themselves. That's why you don't hear a lot of things taught about, because they speak of themselves. They're going to have to tell a really big lie or whatever. And maybe when they do teach about it, it's still a lie. But that is the correct interpretation. And he, the Shaddai reality, will appoint the vineyard to, will appoint new husbandmen. Can you say you? You? Me? You, me, new husbandmen of the vineyard that will give him the fruits in their seasons. And what kind of fruit is he here to, is he just here to gather some apples, oranges, and bananas and some plantanos? No. Yeah, he's going to be gathering that. But no, the most important fruit he's here to gather are people. People. He's bringing that shuttlecraft back to gather people. People. That is the number one fruit to be gathered, is the people. And of course, now kind of bringing us all back circle, the work of the eugenicists. So here they are. They're like, yep, we're destroying your gonads. Your gonads are dying. Your testicles are dying in your scrotum. Your testosterone is plummeting. You're running out of energy. You're tired all the time. Here, how do they call it? Subscription immune system, poison and antidote in the same lab, the Hegelian dialectic. Conflict brings progress, so controlled conflict brings controlled progress. We'll make the poison and the antidote in the same lab. We'll kill your gonads, and then we're going to be making all this synthetic testosterone out here to, give you your new boost because your gonads and your scrotum are dead. Your dead testicles, which will eventually become so-called cancerous, that registered trademark. Your painful tumor melanomas in your testicles, which you will have to have surgically cut off because of the poison needles. And that's now connecting that dot. That was what that guy, my friend, who I proffered the questions to, asked the very specific directed questions. And that guy didn't just come back with answers. He specifically said, big picture of a sagittal view of the male pelvic area with the reproductive system, with great big, there were black arrows, prostate, this, that. There are like 4 black arrows, prostate here and penile member here and there. But there was another arrow in red pointing to a tumor inside the testicle. Cancer. I mean, the cliche, a picture is worth 1,000 words. Yeah. Genital cancer. I think he repeated it twice. And these pictures, I've got them up on the internet. I sat on that for 18 months until I finally published that then as well. And the archives of that, I published it on Poll, Politically Incorrect on 4chan, and the archives are up on 4plebs. So I posted 5 snapshots of the questions along with the pictures, and I even went and took cutouts of the pictures that were posted, and I actually went and got a good high-quality, original, high-resolution copies of even the original pictures that guy posted. So he made it really clear beyond a shadow of a doubt. He says, we're going to sterilize all the males. We're not going to sterilize all the females, because you sterilize all the females, the society goes away. We want to, in their words of Utopia, the 2013 UK TV series, re-aired in the United States in 2020. We intend to halt all human reproduction for 3 generations. How much more clear do they have to be? And now it's happening. You're seeing it. Birth rates plummeting, persons, no energy, gonads are dying right and left. Spontaneous abortions. What's the other one? It's not spontaneous abortions, but women that they can't get pregnant. And of course they're suffering from their own version of endocrine failure and ovarian failure. So the males are suffering from testicular failure. The women are suffering from ovarian failure. The women are having all sorts of difficulties and problems with their menstrual cycles, and of course, the way the society is, not a lot of them are really looking to get pregnant right now. Maybe just a few, but in time, as more and more of them maybe they won't get so-called baby rabies, which is not a bad thing. Baby rabies is a good thing, especially from the Hera reality, as Yahuah had pointed out to me very recently when he brought me the cow, the generic cow reality that showed me the duality of the cow reality, where the Hera Juno reality is the cow, that fertility, a milk cow. Well, cows milk only because they've been impregnated and now they're lactating, and that just carries over with people. This mommy milkies thingy. Well, how did you get mommy milkies? Well, you obviously have a baby somewhere. You got pregnant. That's a good thing. That's the life side of Olam. And Shaddai, Ehim, they want that. But, they don't just want, let's not just be getting pregnant for the sake of getting pregnant. Let's make babies for Yahuah. Do like Hannah did. Hannah came to Shaddai, I assume, came to Yahuah, and said, if you will give me a son, I will give him back to you, and he will serve you forever. Those are the kind of babies. Those kind of babies that will serve the Father of lights forever. Those are the kind of children. Let's not, when we're out here, being caught up in our energy, earth, Syzygy reality of just like, ooh la la, we're feeling the hormones and let's make some babies. Although, most of them don't want to make babies, but there's a few that know that they should be. We're not just going to do the ooh la la, but we're going to pick out suitable mates here, and we're going to be making babies. Not just making them, but raising them, training them, and sending them forth. Train them up in the way that they should go. Well, this death reality that's coming out upon the masses now is just like, well, your gonads are dead, so here, have a shot, and we'll just send everybody home. And I just, sometimes even I can be dense and not connect all the dots, but that's what's happening now. The ones that are staying alive and haven't dropped dead from the heart attacks and strokes and the clots and everything else, the disability claims are skyrocketing. And or the so-called quiet quitting. The males just, there's no desire to work because, that's part of what makes men is gonads, and that's what causes the work factor. So I think I'm belaboring that, but I was studying horses. I grew up with a horse and 3 ponies, and so I did not know. I knew at a young age the difference between geldings and stallions, and I helped participate in those various and sundry alterations. It's very common in the realm of animal husbandry. And I look around and say, wow, we got 100 males here, and we kept 1 or 2 with their gonads intact, and the other 98 or 99, they parted ways with their gonads, and none of them have any. And that type of, in mankind, hypergamy. Is it hypergamy? I don't know if hypergamy is the gender neutral term, or if that's because it's lawful for many females to be associated with one male, but it's not lawful for many males to be associated with one female. So the lawful form of hypergamy, which we do see in the scriptures in several places. 22, there's 22, I believe George Gordon had pointed out. There are 20